All right, we are back and we are chatting all things Challenge Cup round one and a week four preview in NWSL. I love the early weeks of a regular season because we still get these very cool moments where even though you're like maybe three, four, possibly five games into a season, there's room for teams that have already maybe met each other or played each other at least once during the year. But there's still a handful of teams that will meet for the first time in 2023, and we're going to make some picks in some of those games right now. Let's start with OL Reign versus Chicago Red Stars. This is a week 4 matchup. First time these two teams are going to go head to head in 2023. We're just talking about Racing Louisville and how they did not kick off their round one in Challenge Cup, and Chicago Red Stars is the second team that were unavailable and did not kick off their Challenge Cup game. But All Rain, on the opposite side of that, did start their Challenge Cup, and they started it with a win and some fun goal celebrations as well. Like, we got to talk about it a little bit.
A win on the road, right? OL Reign traveling to Los Angeles to take on Angel City in the Challenge Cup last night. Yeah, some big exciting goals and games. Jordan Heitema starting the scoring off for OL Reign. That game coming in the second half, about 15 minutes into the second half, 20 minutes in, and then Jess Fishlock ends up finding the back of the net. I believe it was actually awarded as an own goal, though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what I think happened. I'm going to have to double check the Opta stats on that one. But because it was a corner kick from Megan Rapinoe for OL Reign, kicking it in, driven really hard, great pace on the ball, which allowed Fishlock, who was well past the near post, to use the inside of her right foot, flick it on towards the goal, and it hits off the back of Clarice Lebeon for Angel City, who kind of turns and it skims off the back of her and then finds the back of the net past Angel City in goal. And I think it's an own goal because it wasn't the initial flick from Fishlock wasn't going to be on goal, and the hit off Angel City defender redirected it towards the goal. But still, the celebration from Fishlock unmatched. She did a chicken dance. It was quite bizarre, but quite hilarious. But
you are correct though. It looks like they did credit that to Le'Veon on the own goal.
But we still got the celebration from Fishlock, which was fantastic. And this was a really good win for OL Reign. The way they came out and lined up, a bit of rotation, of course, that we see that, but not that much because Laura Harvey, she has so much depth, but instead of rotating players, I think she rotated positions a bit more. We saw Emily Sonnet go from the 6 into a center back role where we've traditionally seen Emily Sonnet play a lot of minutes. We saw a lot of goalkeeper rotation last night in Challenge Cup play. Dickey gets her first minutes this year with OL Reign in goal instead of Fallon Tullis-Joyce. Quinn goes down with an injury, so hoping Quinn is okay. Yeah, so hate an ankle roll, so hoping they're okay. But yeah, I think that in this matchup that we're looking at now with OL Reign in Chicago, OL Reign is back at home playing at Lumen Field. They got a great crowd at their home opener last weekend. Now they get to do it again, run it back. They're coming off back-to-back wins, and this is a team that I think OL Reign struggled at the first game, right, to find the back of the net. They were getting shots and getting opportunities against Washington in that week 1 match, but now they're starting to find their groove. And I think when OL Reign gets on this run where they're really clicking as a team, despite rotation, despite players being pulled in and out of position, despite substitutes, maybe playing a few more minutes than they thought. Jess Fishlock, a player that wasn't supposed to play all that many minutes last night, ends up getting pulled into the game earlier due to the Quinn injury. And Fishlock ends up scoring the second goal to seal the win for OL Reign. So there's a lot of pieces about this team that just click really well. And meanwhile, Chicago, they are coming off their first win, but they've also struggled to get to this point. They've needed to find some different goal scorers. They did that in their last week game, coming off of 4 goals against Kansas City, so they can find the back of the net, but can they do it consistently? And that's something I just don't think they can. And because of that, I'm going to go with OL Reign in the win over the Red Stars.
Yeah, I think you look at all of those things on paper and maybe you think this is a safe bet like this is where you pick a confident win for the Reign against the Red Stars. I loved the rotation out of Laura Harvey, a coach who practices what she preaches. We've heard her input on Challenge Cup, saying that it's a tournament that coaches can actually utilize as an opportunity as well. Maybe they use it the best way that they think is for their team. So we
Mhm.
saw that in the form of player rotations, and part of that was also due to players who were unavailable. We, like you mentioned, Roosevelt not being one of those players. I'm curious of what that availability report is going to look like for OL Reign going into this match against Chicago. Will Roosevelt be upgraded? Will it go to questionable versus out? The status of Quinn, their ankle roll, what's going to happen there? Like, I think they look like a different team when Quinn is available and
Mhm.
in the midfield for them. We saw their veteran players. Not get the start in a midweek match. We've heard that Megan Rapido is still building those minutes and is likely going to feature as an off the bench option. We saw how this team kind of elevates their play when Fishlock gets involved as well. So I think there's when you're looking at those things on paper, there's a lot that trends towards OL Reign. And I'm with you in that we haven't seen enough from the Red Stars to know if they're gonna be able to string together something like back-to-back wins, because they started off their season with consecutive losses, and they snapped that.
Yep.
Petroselli saying in a press conference that we did not want to start 0-3 in this season. I think maybe going back on the road actually might be a little bit helpful. It was tough for the team while they were at home, to go ahead and try to turn things around. Obviously, having to move forward without a player like Mel Swanson, but I'm curious to see how they're gonna look
Mhm.
without a midweek match on their legs, but they are traveling away. And historically, there's been some pretty close games between these two
Yeah.
teams in the past, and that's why I saved my draw for this one. Because if
Nice.
there's one thing that we've seen from Chicago this year, are some pretty lopsided goal scores. We've seen a couple games now from this team where apparently they're going to just try to get as many goals as they can, and then they've got another game where it was a tough couple losses. So even with that week 1 loss, we're talking it was a 3-2, scoreline, and now they're coming off of a 4-2 scoreline without Amal Swanson against Kansas City. So I think it's gonna be a tough task. So that's why I'm looking at the goalkeepers in this game.
Right.
We're probably gonna see the return of Tullis Joyce. We're gonna see the return of Alyssa Nair, and so maybe it'll come down to those big moments and big saves for the goalkeepers. And
Which they
look,
both can do.
yeah,
Nair and Polish Joyce can both come up with massive saves.
yeah, and we've seen OL Reign. They like to get their shots and they like to get their crosses off, and maybe it'll be one of those things where they sneak one in if they just kind of go in waves of attack. But I still think that there's room for a draw in this one, and I'm
Mhm.
going for draw for OL Reign and Chicago Red Stars. Let's make another pick. We've got New Jersey, New York. Gotham FC versus North Carolina Courage. And this is the first meeting for them in 2023, and the first of what will be many, because they are in that East region group in Challenge Cup with North Carolina Courage. So first meeting in the regular season in general, and then first of many for the remainder of 2023. Gotham picking up the win in Challenge Cup, and we've got North Carolina Courage coming from behind against
Yeah.
Orlando Pride, which, look, I believe I had that as a draw for my
Um,
pick.
no, you got them.
Did I go no, 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 Pride
Oh,
and,
yeah, we both went with a draw.
I think we put a score line on
We
the draw.
did. We did. I can't read my handwriting. I went 0-0 and you went with lots of goals.
Yeah, so that was fake, but I loved what we saw, in between the lines there in that game. Obviously, we'll talk more about Orlando when we were making their week 4 pick, but for North Carolina Courage, what a response, to sort of be this team. We're starting to see that for the Courage, they're still that team that tries to attack you in
Mhm.
waves. They kind of can be a little bit relentless at times. And even though they do that, they're not seeing heavyweight type of score lines. Um, it's tough because we're looking at not only Challenge Cup, but maybe the previous results from North Carolina. And the
Yeah.
last time they went out there, they had a bunch of shots. I think it was like 10 shots, and they didn't have like any attempts on target.
Yep. Yep.
And that's tough. That is tough if you're trying to win a game. Now for Gotham, they've got some goal scorers. And Lynn Williams is not only scoring goals for Gotham, but she is climbing the goal scoring charts in NWSL. She's currently tied with Christine Sinclair. I believe it's with 59 goals at
Mhm.
this point for all time goals in NWSL. And I have to imagine that that is going to, she's a player who could possibly eclipse that goal this season. And she is such an exciting player to watch right now in her return. And I'm looking at Gotham to get all 3 points in this match.
I like that pick. Honestly, I really do. So we got our Challenge Cup picks right for both of these teams actually last night. I agree. I think Lynn Williams, Juan Carlos Amoros, coach at Gotham, has to be like giving himself a Rudy Kazuti, a little pat on the back for making that trade to for Gotham with Kansas City to give Kansas City the number 2 pick and get Lynn Williams. I know there were some haters talking about how Gotham is a bit of an older team, and that is benefiting them so much this year.
Right.
It really is. Like, Lynn Williams is on a tear at this point. She didn't get to play last year really at all. She played a handful of minutes at the start of the year, but then dealt with an injury. And this is a player that can score goals, loves to run, loves to get in behind, and she couldn't do that last year. When you can't do something that you love, you get a little fired up and you want to do it even more. Despite having her arm all wrapped up and in a brace, she's crushing it and she wants to continue to do that. With Gotham last night, we saw a lot of rotation, right? In the goalkeeper position, in the back line. We didn't get to see a Kelly O'Hara. We saw Sinead Farley get a start and get minutes. And I think I was really impressed with the play from Mewis, Williams, Anamanu up top, Goodman's daughter, and how that this Gotham team was able to move the ball around a Washington side throughout the Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
I like your pick of going with Gotham. However, I think that this one is going to be my draw for the weekend
I
because
respect
North
it.
Carolina is a team that they've been very good defensively, but they've struggled offensively. And I don't foresee Gotham putting up multiple goals over North Carolina, whether it's Casey Murphy or whoever they have to try to get through in North Carolina, right? To get to the back of the net. I just think that there's a lot of really good pieces there. And we're starting to see the play develop between Caroline and Miura in the midfield and Denise O'Sullivan. There's a lot of really strong pieces there that I think that ultimately it's going to end in a draw between these two sides. They're coming off a win. Denise O'Sullivan with a banger towards the end of the game outside of the box to draw level last night. And I think they're going to ride that high a little bit. So I'm going to go with the draw between Gotham and North Carolina.
I like it. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a draw, or if we even see more draws down the line. I think that happens when you have two teams that are going to see each other a lot throughout a year. But I think for this first one, it might be the combo breaker, and that's part of why I'm going with Gotham. But I hear you on the goal scoring. I'm thinking
Yeah. And
everything
it's
everything that
at
we've
Red Bull
seen.
too.
Yeah, everything that we've seen from Gotham in terms of their goal scoring has been in late stages of the game, or at least at the very least, like within the second halves of matches. So they're definitely a team where it takes them a little while to get going
Mhm.
in front of net, but eventually they find the breakthrough, and hopefully they find the breakthrough on this one in this game for my pick.